You see this setting right here? Go grab your Canon camera right now and change it. But before I tell you why, we're gonna rewind to 2 weeks ago to the start of my studio renovations when I first discovered that hidden setting. That setting that I just showed you and about 5 others that I'll share throughout this video have made my camera easier to use, faster, or have unlocked hidden functions. For example, earlier this week, I had my electrician Eric over to change some of the plugs in the new space.
So look, there's us.
Yeah.
There's us right there. Should we record the changing of the plug?
You don't have to, but you can.
This way?
You can.
But instead of doing a video, I wanted to do a time lapse. So inside your Canon camera, right here, you might notice that time lapse is disabled. And that can happen if you have log video enabled, or if your camera has dual card slots and you're recording to both. So if you change those settings, you'll then have access to time-lapse where you can set an interval, a number of shots, and it will output a time-lapse video, which you'll see me use a lot throughout the rest of this video. Another hidden secret menu function, especially for those of you who do video, is called shutter button function for movies. So in the movie mode on your Canon camera, normally you're used to that little red button at the top, starting and stopping. But when you've got painted hands or you can't kind of reach that button and you want to do it this way from the front, the main button, the shutter button, you can actually set that to start and stop your video recording, which is way easier if you are a hybrid shooter and you're switching between photo and video. You don't kind of have to reach around and get that little red button. Also, if you ever paint a white room, it is incredibly challenging to see where you've already painted because everything is white. The primer is white, the coat is white, and the second coat is white. I don't know, looks good to me. So you may have seen from that last close-up of the camera that there's a lot of dust and debris and drywall that gets into all the nooks and crannies, which is not great. Thankfully, it doesn't get into the sensor because the sensor and the lens on this L series lens are weather sealed. But sometimes dust does get into your sensor and you need to clean it. So there are actually a few settings that you need to know if you want to clean your sensor. And I have a few IKEA shelves that I need to build that are over here. Now, last night I built one of them that's gonna go up against the wall that's behind here, and I needed a little gap filler piece because I didn't want the door sitting right against the wall. So I actually bought this piece of molding, trimmed it up, and painted it black. So we'll install that and get some of my Canon friends to come over and help install this IKEA furniture while we talk about hidden settings on Canon cameras, see if they have any as well. Actually, one is a Canon shooter, the other is a Sony shooter. So we'll just, we'll have fun with it. Oh my gosh. Guys, what have we done? Look at the mess we created.
We got some shelves up.
We've got one more though. We still gotta finish. You can give me any tips that you have for Canon cameras. Hold on, where's my camera? So with all of this craziness, there's a lot of dust in this space, Like my camera is dusty. I was actually showing them earlier.
I'm allergic to dust.
Well, literally my nose is full of drywall and IKEA particle board. If you want to clean your camera, there's actually a setting that you can lock up the shutter when your camera goes off. Have you ever had to clean your sensor?
I've never actually done it.
Hire Will for all your photography needs. Yeah, so this is the Canon R5. You've got the R5 II, and we're recording on the R5 II. But in the yellow fourth menu, shutter at, what's it called, shutdown? Shutter at shutdown. So if you want to clean your camera sensor, ideally you want to clean it with those little swabs. You can't have the shutter in the way. So you have to turn that setting so that the shutter stays up and you can clean your sensor. But Will, I hear you have some tips for us as well.
Fun little fact, I counted out the menus for one of my own videos. The R5 Mark II has 37 different screens on it. Anyways, my tip is around copyright information. So on Canon cameras, you can actually implement your name and any custom copyright message that you want, and then it gets baked into the metadata of each individual photo. Yeah, that one right there. So it's on the sixth menu of
Both
the yellow.
The R5 and the R5 too.
Yeah, they're the same. It's not going to stop people from stealing your photos. Like, it's not like a perfect solution, but it's a nice thing to have in there, and then it's automatic and you don't have to think about it again.
And you bring it into Lightroom and all the settings are there. Should we compare
you can,
what yours says versus what mine says?
What is yours say?
Solid hidden menu item. Oh, I gotta get off the floor. So far, most of these hidden camera settings aren't that hidden if you're a pro or if you're willing to spend a little bit of time and dig around your camera menu. Oh, I brought the wrong screwdriver. I swear I hate the fact that a lot of things made in Canada use a Robertson, one of these square heads, versus things that tend to be made elsewhere use one of these star Phillips heads. The square is better. Can we all just agree that the square head is better? Also, if you're doing electrical work, get a certified electrician. All of the wires that were done by Eric. I'm just installing the fixtures, and when you install fixtures, make sure the power is turned off. But a lot of the features that I'm showing you are kind of right in plain sight, right inside your menu. Kind of like the features that I'm adding to this space. They're there, you see them, but it's not until you discover where they are and the utility that they have that they really add all of those extra features to your camera, or in this case, to your space. Kind of like this sliding barn door, because when it gets installed, you won't actually see it. It's gonna be seamless with the wall. Or something as simple as this magnetic door stop. We've got hidden LED lights in the cupboards, and these hidden but not so hidden smart LED fixtures, which I can change from warm to cool. And all of those things I found on Amazon, and I swear, Amazon is amazing for all the little things. I'll put links to them down in the description. The acoustic wall panels are not from Amazon. They're from a company called Andor Willow, who actually provided them to me, but I'll do a more like in-depth review of this space once they're all up. You could probably notice that the acoustics are getting better, but we need to finish that wall first. Now, if you're a video shooter or a content creator, one of my favorite hidden features is right inside of your editing software. Whether you use Final Cut or DaVinci, or you're like me and you use Premiere Pro, because that hidden feature is actually from the sponsor of today's video, which is Artlist. By now you know how much I love Artlist because they have music, like the music I've been using in this video, or sound effects, or footage, and now they have tools along with all of their AI resources. There's actually a beta feature that you can open up right inside of your editing software that allows you to do silence removal. So if you have a big long clip, maybe you've done a podcast or a talking head segment like this, and you want to clip out all of those empty portions, well, it will look at the footage and do that for you. Or if you want to add emphasis to certain points of your video, there's now a tool for that as well. But their hidden extension also gives you access to their full library of resources, to their music, to their sound effects, and to their footage, which you can browse, and it will download it and put it nice and neat and tidy inside a folder right alongside of the rest of your project files. And you can feel confident knowing that Artlist is trusted by big name brands. In fact, today I was sitting down watching TV and a commercial came on, and I recognized the music from the commercial as a song you could get on Artlist. So regardless of the level of subscription that you need, whether you are a solo creator or a full commercial studio, there is an annual subscription for you. And if you use my exclusive link down in the description, it will give you 2 months free off of one of those plans. So check it out now. Let Artlist know that you support them and that you support me. And big thanks to Artlist for continuing to be a supporter of this channel and everything that I do. So maybe you knew some of those hidden features that I showed you already, or maybe you're still waiting for the one that I teased about at the beginning, which we'll get to, but one of the ones that's super important, that's kind of one of those features that you don't know unless you read the manual or unless you run into the situation, which this is one I get asked all the time from beginners and professionals. Now, whether you are a videographer and you're shooting on something like this, which is a cinema lens, or this is an anamorphic cinema lens, which you just saw some of the footage on screen of me cutting some wood behind here, or if you have a vintage photography lens and you attach that to your camera, the camera doesn't actually know that it's attached because there are no digital contacts with those lenses. A lot of these lenses don't have image stabilization, they don't have autofocus, and so when you attach it and you try to use the shutter button, the camera won't release the shutter or it won't take a video. And so if you go in to the orange menu, in this case I'm on my Canon R5, and you go to this setting called Release Shutter Without Lens, that means that the digital lenses, it knows they're attached, but the analog vintage lenses or these cinema lenses, it doesn't know that it's attached. In fact, it thinks there's no lens attached. And then that way, if you pick up some vintage lenses from a thrift store, or if you happen to have some anamorphic cinema lenses like this 33 T1.8 anamorphic lens, you can use it on your camera. If you haven't already grabbed your camera, go and grab it right now, because this next setting is one that every Canon user should change. About 1.5 years ago, I stopped taking any new wedding video clients. But one of the things that I would do when shooting wedding videos is that I would have 2 dedicated cameras set up on tripods during the ceremony. And in order to make sure everything was in focus, we would actually manually focus the lenses. In my case, I was either using a 70-200 or something like this 24-70, and then manually focusing to make sure what we were trying to capture was in focus and the autofocus didn't go crazy during the ceremony. Or if you are doing astrophotography and you're manually focusing to the stars, and then let's say your battery dies or you want to move positions, well, if you turn your camera off and then back on, it doesn't maintain those settings unless you change one of the default hidden menu items inside of your Canon camera. So there is a setting called Retract Lens on Power Off, which the naming makes no sense to me, because when I first saw it back when I got my Canon R6, I thought it had to do with like power zoom lenses. So by default, this is on. What that does is it resets the focus position. So I'd recommend everyone go in, turn that off. In fact, I think Canon should actually rename this setting to something more intuitive, like retain manual position on power off. But it actually gets better, because unlike the old EF lenses where, even if you turn your camera off and then you bump the dial, well, that would change the focus. But because this is digital, if you turn it off and you bump the dial, it doesn't know it got bumped. So then you can turn your camera back on and it still keeps that exact same position, which is great, because I've actually been using that exact technique throughout this whole video, because there have been shots where, I know I'm gonna get paint on my hands and I don't wanna have to go back and like touch everything. So I would literally set my camera up to the focus point of where I knew I'd be painting or where I knew I'd be changing an outlet, go and do the work, turn the camera on, hit record. I can do that with one finger. I don't have to like grab a lens, and then that way it is a lot more convenient. So you didn't even realize I've been using that hidden feature throughout this entire video, and I'd recommend go changing it if you haven't already.